Oui, ça va très bien. Je vous attends très bien. Hazel? Hazel, can you hear me?
We are starting the webinar, Frankie.
Yeah, you open the webinar.
Yes, I have.
Sure.
So please put Philippe in his booth. Philippe has just joined. He's a French interpreter. How is I at UKZN?
Let me stop sharing first.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining the second webinar session of the African Ombudsman Research Center, AORC, in 2022. To those who are joining for the first time, my name is Brian MacArthur, Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Law and Management Studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I have once again been given the very pleasant task of delivering the welcome address. I would like to start by acknowledging the chairperson of the African Ombudsman Research Center, AORC, president of the African Ombudsman and Mediators Association, AOMA, and public protector of South Africa, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhubane. Dean and head of the UKZN School of Law and member of the AORC board, Professor Managay Reddy, Deputy Public Protector of South Africa, Advocate Kollega Galeka. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panel comprising of Ombudsman of the Seychelles, Honorable Nicole Tirant, who will also facilitate the proceedings today. Ombudsman of Burundi, Honorable Edouard Nduwimana. Ombudsman of Angola, Honorable Antonia Araujo. Deputy Ombudsman of Ontario, Canada, Honorable Barbara Finlay. Greetings also to Excellencies and Honorable Ombudsman, distinguished participants and guests, all colleagues, students, our alumni, and members of the media. I welcome you to our webinar session under the theme Complaint Handling. Our webinar on the 8th of March 2022 has special significance as it coincides with International Women's Day, which is aptly themed Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. This latter theme resonates with the mandate of the African Ombudsman Institution to promote good governance, to strengthen the rule of law, and advocate for human rights. While great strides have been achieved in correcting the historical imbalances which excluded women from participating in political, economic, and public spheres within the African continent, and indeed across the globe, we still have a long way to go in the realization of Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which seeks to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030. In fact, all 17 SDGs are dependent on us achieving SDG 5. Her Excellency, Dr. Joyce Banda, former president of Malawi, encapsulated what we need to do when she once said, "The seeds of success in every nation on earth are best planted in women and children." As members of AOMA, now more than ever, we need to continue holding our governments accountable to achieve gender equality by 2030 in order to eliminate the many root causes of discrimination that still restrain women's rights in private and public spheres. It is pleasing to see that the Ombudsman Institute takes the matter of gender equality seriously. If you look at today's panel of experts, with the exception of the Honorable Edouard Nduwimana, the webinar will be in the capable hands of our female colleagues who have a sound track record as visionary leaders in the legal fraternity in Africa and abroad. This esteemed panel will address one of the requests from AOMA members on the management of complaints. In keeping with the mandate of AORC to promote capacity development, knowledge generation, and professionalism within African Ombudsman institutions, the panel will discuss the process and methodology needed to formulate an effective complaint handling procedure that will provide participants with the skills and confidence to improve their handling of complaints, with the ultimate goal of reaching a satisfactory solution to the complaint. I know that today's webinar will contribute to the development of skilled resources within the Ombudsman institutions, and that it will benefit each participating country. I once again welcome you to the second webinar session of the AORC in 2022. It is now my pleasure to hand over to Advocate Mkhwebane, who will formally welcome you as the chairperson of both AORC and AOMA. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. MacArthur, Facilitator and Ombudsman of Seychelles, Honorable Nicole Turant, Ombudsman of Burundi, Honorable Nduimana, Ombudsman of Angola, Honorable Rocha Araujo, Deputy Ombudsman of Ontario in Canada, Honorable Finlay, fellow Ombudsman and mediators, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Acting Head of College of Law and Management Studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor MacArthur, staff from various offices of Ombudsman and mediators, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much, Prof. MacArthur, for wishing us the International Women's Day, and I wish the women, the best from today onwards going forward. And thank you for covering all aspects relating to the SDGs and the participation of women. Let me start by thanking all for availing yourselves for this critical webinar. We meet just a few days after receiving information regarding the resignation of our colleague, Mr. Makgonatsotle, from the position of Ombudsman of Botswana, and by extension, his role as AOMA Regional Coordinator for Southern Africa. Mr. Makgonatsotle is a seasoned ombudsman from whose broad experience and know-how we all have learned in the past decades. He leaves us in the good hands of Mr. Moncho, who fills the void and takes the baton as acting Ombudsman of Botswana. I trust that I speak for all of us when I say we will constantly miss his humility, and we wish him nothing but the very best in his future endeavors. Today's webinar focuses on complaints handling, an issue which ranks amongst the leading training needs for AOMA membership, as indicated by the African Ombudsman Research Center's needs assessment in respect of capacity building priorities. It is not a mistake that this aspect of our work has been identified as urgent. Complaints handling is easily the heartbeat of the work of the ombudsman or mediator, and has been the subject matter at many ombudsman and mediators conferences over the year. As ombudsman and mediators, our work is rooted in trust. The public entrust us with their complaints in the belief that we will be responsive, and where the complaints are substantiated, we will take them as close as possible to where they would have been but for the wrongdoing on the part of state functionaries. Similarly, the respondents trust us to be even-handed, reasonable, and just in our approach, such that where they are vindicated, we must say so without fear, favor, or prejudice. This is because they occupy public offices as unpopular mandate and would like to be seen to be living up to the pre-electoral promises. Accordingly, both these groups expect us to have our houses in order with clear and elaborate processes and procedures on how their complaints and responses will be handled from the day the matter is received all the way to the day the file is closed. And that is not too much to ask. Many ombudsmen and mediators have put processes and procedures in place which flow from what ought to be happening in the institution and within their enabling legislations and policies. For instance, in the case of South Africa, we have the Public Protector rules on investigations and matters incidental thereto. These rules came into form in 2018. They seek to expedite the solution of complaints by facilitating cooperation in investigation and implementation of remedial action contained in the investigation reports through the standardization of matters and timelines and how we issue subpoenas, session seizure, and how we conduct dispute resolution mechanisms and contempt of the public protector. They also outline the procedures for lodging complaints and the resolution of disputes. The service standards applicable to the office in relation to the investigation. Service standards make sure that when we receive the complaint, how long do we take to triage, assessing the complaint? How long do we take to contact the complainant, log the issues, and how long do we take to approach the respondents? And when do we expect the response? How long do we take to analyze the matter and finalize the matter, lest we are also accused of undue delay, and that is also part of maladministration, and that's what we are supposed to be investigating. So the rules as well, they do provide that the public protector may make rules, and those rules are gazetted so that even the public servants and state institutions can see and access those rules. That promotes efficiency as the institution which is also entrusted with the complaints. So it's against this background that AORC has assembled a team of experts from within the global ombudsman community to share their experiences and good practices so that all of us are at the cutting edge of the very latest developments and innovations on the subject matter. So I'm looking forward to hear from the Honorable Nicole as the facilitator, Honorable Nduwimana, Honorable Florbella, and Barbara Finlay, our esteemed colleagues from Seychelles, Burundi, Angola, and Canada. So I wish you all a fruitful engagement, which will be the benefit of the multitudes across the African continent and the world at large. I mean, thanks to this fourth industrial revolution, where now we can use the virtual platform to learn more, and as well encourage how we can process the complaints and avoid litigation, since we know as ombudsmen, our services are free and we deal with complaints from the poor and the marginalized. So I hope today we will be able to learn, and also as ombudsman from Africa, we would want to make sure that that is at the core of one of the aspirations of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, to make sure that there's good governance in state administration. I regularly point it out to remind you, honorable members, of your role in contributing towards the realization of this master plan for the transformation of Africa into a global powerhouse, underpinned by the 7 aspirations, which we all know. So we are focusing on aspiration 3 and 4, which deals with good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law, as well as peace and security, are the most relevant for us as ombudsman. Let us do our bit to make this dream a reality. It starts with small things, such as how we handle incoming complaints. Thank you. I would now hand over to Honorable Nicole, the Ombudsman of Seychelles, to facilitate this session. Thank you so much. Honorable Nicole. Do we have Honorable Nicole Frankie? Okay, whilst we're waiting for Honorable Nicole Frankie, if we can then start with our first speaker, and if you can also introduce the first speaker and their profile, please. Frankie Omarion?
Can you hear me, PP?
Yes, we can. Can you
Okay,
go ahead?
I'll introduce the first speaker. The first speaker is Honorable Edward Nduwimana. He's the second Ombudsman of the Republic of Burundi. He's a career magistrate who has occupied various positions as prosecutor of the Republic and later governor of the province in 2008. He invested in the mobilization of the population for development of his province. He was Home Affairs Minister from 2009 to 2015 and was decorated by the President of the Republic in 2014 in recognition of the administrative performance and legal reform he initiated. He was elected member of Burundian Parliament in 2015 and later elected second Deputy President of the office of the National Assembly before being elected Ombudsman of the Republic on the 22nd of November 2016, when he was sworn in before the Burundi head of state and the two chambers of the Burundian Parliament. Honorable Nduwimana is the current treasurer of AOMA and a board member of AORC. Over to you, Honorable Nduwimana. You're welcome to start with your presentation, Honorable Nduwimana.
Sorry,
Honorable
Mary,
Nduwimana, are you available?
there's a problem with the video. It's upside down. Can we ask the Honorable Nduwimana to adjust the video?
Please adjust your video, Honorable Nduwimana.
Marianne?
Hello, should we go to the next, can we go to the next speaker?
Yes.
Honorable
Yes,
Antonio?
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Oh, is he ready?
No, I
Yes.
think we should move with the next speaker.
Okay, sorry. We will start with the next speaker, Honorable Antonio, while Honorable Nduwimana is sorting himself out. Seems to have a bit of a challenge there. Honorable Antonio Flabella de Jesus Rocha Aruajo is a current Ombudsman of the Republic of Angola. She's elected by the National Assembly in May 2021. She is also currently a member of the Board of International Ombudsman Institute. She holds a master's degree in international law from the Classic University of Lisbon and a law degree by the University Agostinho Neto in Luanda, Angola. She received training on human rights in Angola, Portugal, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain. She has participated in several work groups on projects for the elaboration of legislation. She has experience in the field of international relations, was a lecturer at the Law School of the Catholic and Lusada Universities in Angola and at the Faculty of Letters and Social Sciences of the Agostinho Neto University. She was also Secretary for Judicial and Legal Affairs Republic of Angola. Honorable Antonio, you're welcome to continue. I hand over to you. Thank you. Honorable Antonio. Please unmute yourself, Honorable Antonia. You're muted. Honorable, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, Excelência. Começo por saudar a doutora Buzivic Macaban, presidente da AOMA.
I start by greeting the Public Protector of South Africa and Chairperson of AORC.
A doutora Brian Macar, vice-chanceler da Universidade KwaZulu-Natal.
E o Dr. Brian Macar, Vice Chancellor of the University of KwaZulu-Natal School of Law.
Os distintos preletores e a moderadora.
Dear colleagues of the panel.
Caros colegas, professores e demais participantes, minhas senhoras, meus senhores.
Honorable colleagues, ladies and gentlemen.
O webinar de hoje vai discutir sobre a gestão das queixas.
The webinar today will discuss matters of complaint management.
Tema importante para o bom funcionamento do resultado das nossas instituições de defesa dos direitos cidadãos dos nossos países. Inglês.
This is a very important thing for the protection of the complaints management.
O tema tem 5 tópicos.
The theme today will be discussed around 5 topics.
Uma introdução, enquadramento da gestão de queixas.
Introduction, complaints management framework.
Transformando as queixas no sistema contínuo para a melhoria dos serviços da experiência de Angola.
Turn complaints into continuous improvement in the public sector.
Os desafios e perspectivas.
Challenges and perspectives.
E considerações finais.
And concluding remarks.
O que é, afinal, a gestão das queixas? É um sistema que permite a utilização racional e eficaz das reclamações de cidadãos, envolvendo meios humanos e equipamentos.
What is complaint management? The management of complaints is a system that allows the rational and effective use of complaints from citizens, involving human resources and equipment.
Com vista à reparação das violações causadas pelas entidades do setor público,
with a view to repairing violations caused by public sector entities.
Podemos entender por queixa toda e qualquer comunicação sobre a violação dos direitos e liberdades fundamentais dirigidas ao provedor de justiça.
Within the scope of the Ombudsman action, we can understand complaints as any communication about violation and fundamental rights and freedoms. Addressed to the Ombudsman.
Independentemente da forma como é solicitada a intervenção,
regardless of the form in which his intervention is requested.
O âmbito da atuação do provedor de justiça em Angola.
One of the competencies of the Ombudsman in Angola
são os serviços da administração pública central e local do Estado.
Is to instruct cases related to citizen complaints
Está desfocado.
based on the following entities: public administration services,
Os institutos públicos,
public institutes,
as empresas públicas,
public companies or companies with mostly public funds,
os órgãos de defesa e segurança,
defense and national security boards,
as entidades administrativas independentes,
independent administrative entities,
entidades privadas que exercem poderes públicos ou que prestam serviço de interesse geral,
private entities that exercise public powers or that provide services to the public.
uma atuação atempada do provedor de justiça com base nos princípios da independência, celeridade e gratuidade.
Any timely action of the Ombudsman based on the principles of independence, expedite, and free of charge,
A parte do seu poder de prestação e da recomendação que emite aos gestores públicos,
besides of its persuasive powers and recommendation,
pode contribuir significativamente para a melhoria dos serviços públicos.
the Ombudsman may contribute significantly to the improvement of public service.
No. he-
Em Angola, a representação esquemática das queixas
I can hear both.
We have currently, we have here a
I'm not so
schematic
sure what the
presentation.
problem is.
inicia pela entrada no Departamento de Expedição da Secretaria-Geral,
No, Andre is interpreting. Andre is interpreting from Portuguese. to
Mute
English.
yourself, Marion, and Andre, move closer to the microphone, please. We can't hear you.
o que diz?
Mr. Frank, is it better now?
Podemos continuar?
It's still not good enough, Andre. If you can move close to the microphone so we can hear you. People are complaining that they can't hear the interpreter. Sorry about
How
that.
about
Yeah.
now? Is it better now?
Much better, but if we can do better than that, we will appreciate that.
Yes, okay, we are going to try to.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. If we can do that, then
Is it, okay.
Em Angola, as queixas entram pelo Departamento de Expedição da Secretaria-Geral. O segundo passo é o tratamento da queixa na direção das áreas especializadas.
In Angola, we receive complaints. The first step is complaints received, documentations and clearing, which is done through the Department of Documentation.
Depois é feita a investigação e a resposta, a tomada de medida é feita por essa área em conjunto com o Provedor de Justiça.
So, and this goes through another step, which is handling of complaints, which is the area of investigators directorate.
A resolução ou recomendação ou pedido de esclarecimentos
The third point is analyzing and investigations.
é enviada através do Departamento de Expediente.
Goes to a response, decision, and resolution.
Quais podem ser os motivos das queixas? As queixas dirigidas ao Provedor de Justiça podem ser motivadas por violação dos direitos sociais, culturais, políticos e econômicos do cidadão, assim como por violação das garantias fundamentais por parte de uma entidade da administração pública.
What may be the motives of the complaints? Complaints addressed to the Ombudsman may be motivated by violation of the citizens' social, cultural, political, and economic rights, as well as violation of fundamental guarantees to a public administration entity, or by, rather.
Para que o cidadão possa fazer a sua queixa, é necessário respeitar princípios fundamentais da gestão das queixas.
For a citizen to submit a complaint, he has to respect some fundamental procedures.
O cidadão tem que ter a certeza que a sua queixa é tratada com segurança, justiça, sem represálias.
Anyone who wishes to lodge a complaint or raise a certain issue will only do that if they have enough trust that their complaint will be attended to with fairness.
Para tal, ele tem que obedecer a 8 princípios.
Thus, in order to ensure the efficiency of these, he has to obey 8 core principles.
Princípio da participação,
The first one is denunciation or reporting.
do contexto e adaptação,
The second one is contextualization and adaptation.
da segurança,
Third one, safety,
da confidencialidade ou sigilo,
confidentiality,
do respeito,
respect,
da não discriminação,
non-discrimination,
da informação
information,
e da acessibilidade. É necessário que haja acesso à
and
justiça.
accessibility. It is needed that there should be access to justice.
Qual é a importância do benefício das queixas?
But then how do we benefit from the complaints?
Satisfazer as necessidades do cidadão,
Satisfying citizens' needs,
propor solicitações e sugestões a fim de melhorar a participação dos cidadãos,
handling, resolving their grievances to improve participation of citizens,
melhorar o desempenho operacional,
It improves the operational performance
melhorar o diálogo,
and also improves dialogue amongst the institutions.
promover a transparência e a admissibilidade,
It also promotes transparency and admissibility.
fornecer informações transparentes,
Provide information that allows them to improve,
estabelecer através da resolução das queixas uma relação de confiança,
establish through the resolution of complaints a relationship of trust with citizen,
fornecer uma visão geral da eficácia da sua ação,
with citizen,
fornecer uma visão geral
overview
da eficácia da sua ação,
of the effectiveness of his action.
ajudar a identificar e resolver os problemas com rapidez,
It also helps to identify and resolve problems as fast as possible.
limitar os eventuais impactos negativos,
It limits possible negative impacts
criar um fórum e uma estrutura de apresentação de queixas,
and it also helps on the creation of a structure for submitting grievances.
proporcionar o acesso a um sistema claro e transparente,
Provide a clear access and transparency for resolution system.
facilitar o acesso à informação e aos beneficiários das ferramentas fiáveis para contestar uma ação,
Facilitate access to information,
melhorar os serviços e otimizar a satisfação dos mesmos,
it improves the services provided by the public.
Quem pode apresentar a queixa ao provedor de justiça em Angola?
Who can submit complaints to the Ombudsman of Angola?
Cidadão singular,
Citizens or private persons,
grupo de pessoas, associações, etc.
group of people, collective persons, such as enterprises,
Pessoas coletivas ou empresas.
collective persons or enterprises.
Como é que o cidadão apresenta a queixa ao provedor de justiça em Angola?
How does the citizen submit a complaint to the Ombudsman of the Republic of Angola?
O cidadão pode apresentar a queixa de forma oral, por audiência, ou de forma escrita, por carta, via telefônica, ou e-mail, ou outro meio de comunicação.
Citizens may lodge a complaint to the Ombudsman verbally, written letter, via the telephone, through email, or other means of communication.
A queixa deve conter a identidade e morada do queixoso e a narração e data dos fatos.
A complaint must have an identity and the address of the complainant,
Deve ter a sua assinatura,
should have his signature,
sempre que possível, a identidade do agente que praticou o ato ou a violação,
and whenever possible, the identity of the person who performed the action underlying the complaint.
não pode conter termos ofensivos ao bom nome e à honra dos eventuais violadores,
It cannot contain terms that are offensive to the good name and honor of possible transgressor.
No terceiro capítulo, vamos falar da transformação das queixas no sistema contínuo para a melhoria dos serviços públicos, a experiência de Angola.
Now we are going to talk about turning complaints into continuous improvement in the public sector through the experience of the Angolan Ombudsman.
As queixas e exposições formuladas pelos cidadãos ao provedor de justiça são registradas na secção de expediente, independentemente do meio por que são apresentadas.
Complaints and statements made by citizens or institutions to the Ombudsman are registered in the Office of the Registry and Archives of the General Secretariat,
Ou recebidas por via e-mail no site institucional da Provedoria de Justiça.
regardless of the means by which they were presented on the day of the receipt.
E é acusada a recepção pela mesma plataforma.
In the case of complaints or exposure received via email, institutional websites or social medias, without prejudice to the receipt of automatic information.
O provedor de justiça tem 4 passos: admissão, encaminhamento, indeferimento, arquivo e admissibilidade.
Well, the Ombudsman has 4 steps. The first one is admission, second one being forwarding, The third one, refusal, and the archives,
Pode delegar essas funções,
which can be delegated to other entities.
esses espaços, com exceção do pedido de esclarecimentos e recomendações.
The admissibility of the exhibition gives rise to the opening of processes.
Estas queixas podem ser transformadas como sugestões e recomendações aos órgãos da administração pública central e local do Estado no âmbito do dever de cooperação.
These complaints may be transformed as complaints that are used for the improvement of public services.
E o objetivo principal é analisar as características da gestão das reclamações face às redes sociais e outros meios.
And the main objective is to analyze complaints presented to the Ombudsman through the social medias.
Como considerações finais, o servidor público, sendo agente de Estado, precisa estar preparado para servir situações adversas.
As final consideration, any public servants should be prepared to serve the public in adverse situations.
No essencial, esta formação deve ajudar a perceber o seguinte:
Essentially, this training should help us to understand the following.
que o objetivo da gestão das queixas é para fortalecer a fidelidade do cidadão, bem como a garantia da qualidade do serviço prestado.
That the objective of management complaints is to strengthen citizens' trust, as well as guaranteeing the quality of the public services provided.
Que as críticas devem ser avaliadas de forma sistemática e ordenada e usadas para criar um impacto positivo junto dos serviços visados.
That criticism should be evaluated in a systematic and orderly manner and used to create a positive impact on the public services provided.
Que as instituições que recebem reclamações, ninguém é completamente imune a elas, sendo que com o aumento da cultura jurídica, o número de reclamações dirigidas ao produto de justiça geralmente também cresce.
That no one is immune to complaint, not even public entities. With increase in legal culture, the number of complaints addressed to the Ombudsman usually also grows.
Que o cidadão deve se sentir satisfeito e deve haver uma opinião pública geral de respeito pelo produto de justiça e não deve ficar frustrado para evitar que haja o descrédito de servidores públicos.
That a disgruntled citizen whose opinion is not considered is likely to stop trusting service provided by the state and will also tell others how frustrated or angry they are.
Que a gestão das queixas deve tratar metodicamente as insatisfações e críticas dos cidadãos.
That the handling of management complaints should deal with this address methodically.
E que estas queixas devem ser transformadas em recomendações e sugestões aos órgãos dos poderes públicos.
And that these complaints should be used to improve recommendations to public entities.
Muito obrigado a todos.
Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Mario, next speaker.
We shall now move on to the next speaker.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Antonio.
Muito obrigado, Dr. Antônia Florbela.
We will move on to, we won't do
Vamos
a
agora
summary
seguir
of
para
your speech. We will move on to Honorable Induwimana, and at the end, because of all the issues that we've had with time, we'll actually just read the questions at the end. The facilitator is battling to get on. She appears to have connection problems at the moment. We're still trying to get her on. So Honorable Induwimana, are you ready? Honorable Induwimana? It seems like Honorable Induwimana is not ready. Can we move on to Honorable Finlay. Would you like to speak now, Honorable Finlay? May I introduce you?
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you quite clearly.
Okay.
I will introduce you now because it seems like Honorable Nduwimana has a problem with connection again. The next speaker is Honorable Ms. Barbara Finlay. She has been involved in ombudsman work for over 20 years and has been with the Office of the Ontario Ombudsman since 2005. As Deputy Ombudsman, she is responsible for the daily operations of the office, including the investigation and resolution of more than 26,000 complaints per year. She played a lead role in steering the office through its recent transition, expanding its mandate to include children and youth in care and French language services. Ms. Finlay is active in training members of the Ombudsman community and regularly speaks to a wide variety of stakeholder groups on the role of the Ombudsman in promoting good governance. Prior to joining the Ontario Ombudsman, she served as the Director General of Operations for Canada's first military ombudsman. She was one of the original team members involved in the creation of the National Defence and Canadian Forces Ombudsman in 1998. Ms. Finlay holds an undergraduate degree from the University of Ottawa in Social Sciences and Criminology. She graduated from the University of Ottawa Common Law program in 1992 and was called to the bar in 1994. Welcome, Ms. Barbara Finlay, and you may, thank you, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you. I have someone who's going to share our presentation. There we go. If everyone can see that. So I was asked to talk about the effective use of technology, the internet and social media in complaint handling. Before we get started, as tradition here in Canada, I want to acknowledge that our Ombudsman Office for the province of Ontario is located in the city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and sits on a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, so Miigwech. Then we will slide. There we go. Just to give you a context, I am from the Provincial Ombudsman of Ontario here in Canada. We are a parliamentary ombudsman. We have our own governing legislation called the Ombudsman Act. Our office has been in existence since 1975. We oversee more than 1,000 different public sector bodies, including all provincial ministries, tribunals, agencies, boards, and commissions, municipalities, universities, school boards, and child protection services, as well as the provision of French language services, which French is the second official language here in Canada and also a language in use here in the province of Ontario. We serve a population of nearly 15 million people, and we here in Ontario, the most populous province in Canada. And last year, we received over 20,000 complaints. So we have many complaints to handle each year. Next slide. This is just an overview of how we receive our complaints. This has changed thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. We will take complaints by telephone, by email, through a electronic complaint form that is available on our website, by fax, which is not used much anymore. And prior to the pandemic, we did take complaints in person. We will continue to do so once it's safe to resume that. And traditionally, however, it was a very small percentage of people that would actually come into our office, about 1 to 2%. As you can see, the large majority of our complaints are received through our website or email. Prior to the pandemic, this was reversed a little bit. We received actually more complaints by telephone than online, but as the pandemic hit, more people, I think, switched to internet usage. Okay. Next slide, please. We have the capacity for people to log a complaint through our website, which I think is really important. You want to be as accessible as possible for individuals to bring complaints forward to your office. We have a number of different complaint forms. One of the things that I like about our form is that it's set up so it automatically downloads and populates into our complaint management system. So we can ensure that no complaint is lost. It's automatically logged into our system, so it can be reviewed and triaged and assigned to a staff member to respond to. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about our social media, because I'm going to focus on social media and how we've used that in promoting outreach of our office, receiving complaints, and in handling complaints and investigations. One of the main, this is just an idea of the social media reach of our office and the different social media accounts that we have. One of the ways that we use social media is to create awareness of the Ombudsman's office, which is really important, and educate the public about what we can do as Ombudsman, what our role and function is, and to manage expectations and inform people about what we cannot do. Right, next slide, please. We like to share case resolutions, so examples of cases that we have resolved through our office, so people can see these and perhaps recognize the problems that they have and realize how they can connect with us to get help. We will share examples of our work, releases about investigations that we are doing, and general information about how we can provide assistance to people and how they can contact us, which is, in my view, very important to demonstrating our value as a public institution, given that we are a publicly funded body. Right, so these are just some examples of our social media posts. Next slide, please. Important to note for our office, we do not take complaints directly on social media, so you can't post on Facebook your complaint or tweet us about your complaint. We really discourage that because under our legislation, complaints are intended to be confidential. And as everyone knows, social media is a public forum. So as you will see there, if someone tries to make a complaint to us on social media, we'll direct them to our online complaint form or to call a member of our staff so they can make their complaint in a confidential way. We do use social media, though, to provide helpful information to people or referrals that might be relevant to them. So if they're looking for a specific government agency to contact about a problem, or we're aware of an issue or a problem or a government program that's just been launched, we will promote information about that on social media to assist people. We'll use social media to inform people of their rights, especially vulnerable groups like children and youth in care. And as I said, to generally raise awareness of our work. All right, next slide, please. This is an example again, if someone contacts us about a complaint or a concern that is not within our jurisdiction. We got a lot of complaints about air travel during the pandemic. We will direct people by social media to where they can take their complaint if we know we're not going to be able to help them. Okay. Next slide, please. One of the questions that was asked in the pre-questions of the webinar was, what are some of the pitfalls of using social media? And there are, I think, some big ones, but they're all manageable, I think, with having good policies and practices in place around your use of social media, how you're going to engage with people and how you're going to handle complaints that are received as a result of social media, or how people are going to engage with you on social media about your complaints. We all know social media can be used inappropriately by people, so you have to set limits and define how you're going to respond when this happens with your office. If you're using social media, whether it's to take complaints directly or to raise awareness of your work, you have to have a clear policy around public engagement. This is a screenshot of our policy. It is available on our website. So if you do have a policy, you have to make it accessible to people so they know what it is and what the limits are about engaging with you. You need to make clear to people in your policy how your office will use social media, whether or not you will take complaints directly on social media, what are the limits of your engagement, and what you will do if someone posts something that is inappropriate, offensive, or abusive, or contains too much personal information. We indicate clearly that our social media accounts belong to the Office of the Ombudsman of Ontario. We control the social media accounts, and we have the right to remove posts that we feel are abusive or inappropriate, and we can block persons who continue to engage in such behavior. We do not engage with people on social media to the point that we will debate or argue with them or respond to inappropriate language or posts. Usually we will just remove the content and block them if needed. We also have a protocol that we have developed internally to be used in the rare circumstances where a complainant has chosen to personally identify and or target one of our staff members on social media. This is important for us because as an employer, we have an obligation to protect our staff from abusive behavior and to take appropriate action if this occurs. In such situations, we may block a user, we may notify the authorities if the person's behavior is threatening towards a staff member, or if it's judged to be defamatory, we may have legal counsel issue a formal cease and desist letter. But for the large part, these are very rare occurrences. Our use of social media and engagement with social media has actually, I would say, been more positive than negative, and it certainly is an important part of promoting the office and our complaint handling and what we can do to assist people. So next slide, please. I'm just going to give a few quick examples of how we have used social media and technology in complaint handling and investigations during the history of the Ontario Ombudsman's Office. This is an example of a case we did back in 2014, where we launched a systemic investigation into an agency we call Hydro One, which is the province of Ontario's official hydro distributor, and which at that time fell under our ombudsman's jurisdiction. In May of 2013, the hydro company had implemented a new customer service and billing system, which immediately caused problems with billing and customer service for over 100,000 customers. We immediately began to see a steady increase in complaints, and we knew that there were many people who were affected who would be interested in the investigation that the Ombudsman had launched into Hydro One's billing problems. We issued a press release that was distributed across all of our social media accounts announcing the launch of our investigation. And the press release was important because it allowed us on social media to define clearly what we were investigating, what were the limits and scope of our investigation, and what people could do if they had complaints, including how they could access the hydro company directly to resolve their billing concerns. We also wanted to make it easy for people to contact us and make a complaint, and we did not want to overwhelm our system. So we created an app which essentially directed people to a mobile optimized form linked to our website so they could easily launch a complaint from their phones. You see this all the time now, but in 2014, it was actually pretty cutting edge stuff for us to be doing. After the investigation was announced, we received a total of 1,759 complaints in just 4 days. And throughout the course of the investigation, we received over 10,000 complaints. In hindsight, I would tell you that the mobile solution that we identified where people could easily launch complaints through our website from their phones, I gave it mixed reviews. Well, it made it easy for people to complain and more accessible, and it avoided our phone system from being overwhelmed. In a lot of cases, I felt we made it a little bit too easy for people to make a complaint. that people use the mobile app as a way to vent their frustrations without necessarily providing us with the information that we needed to assess their complaint. And our staff wound up spending a lot of time chasing people down to see if they wish to proceed with their complaint. So my word of advice to you would be, if you're going to use social media to provide people with a mechanism to complain to your office, do it in such a way that you're going to gather the information that you need to review their complaint in a useful fashion. Another element I would add is when you announce an investigation on social media, or that you are looking at an issue which people can complain about, you need to ensure that you are prepared to handle the incoming volume of complaints. In our Hydro One investigation, we took a number of steps to handle the high volumes of complaints that we would receive. We set up a dedicated team of staff to handle complaints. We worked with the hydro company to establish a process to identify common errors and issues. We prepared a guidance document for our staff to assist them while they were doing the intake of complaints. We monitored trends using our complaint management system, and we set up to maintain regular statistics on the number of types and complaints that we received. We also provided a guidance to our staff on the kinds of examples of complaints we're looking for to use in our systemic investigation. All right, next slide, please. This is an example, another very quick case study example of how we use social media for evidence gathering during an investigation that we conducted back in 2010. During that year, the International G20 Summit was hosted in Toronto, and we launched a systemic investigation into the Ontario government's decision to issue a regulation under a very old piece of legislation called the Public Works Protection Act. The legislation granted police sweeping powers of arrest within a specific boundary during the summit. It was not debated in the legislature, and there was very little public notice. As part of our investigation, we were interested in hearing from persons that were caught up in the protest and in police tactics that were used to confine protesters, and which resulted in mass detentions and arrests. We had been surveying social media and conducting filtered searches and monitoring media coverage of the events. So we knew that a lot of people had been posting about their experiences, and we put out a call on social media for evidence from people who were directly impacted. We received over 1,000 photographs from members of the public, including one photographer who lived in a secured area and took hundreds of photos from his window, but had never shared them publicly. We also received video footage and images taken in the weeks and days leading up to the summit and over the summit weekend, including links to YouTube accounts, YouTube video taken by persons, and Twitter posts. A lot of the evidence that we obtained through our social media call for evidence and received from people's posts was used in our investigation and featured in our report to demonstrate the impact of police exercise of their expanded powers under the government secret regulation, as we called it. One word of caution that I would note is it's very important, if you're going to call for evidence on social media and you want to use it, you take proper steps to verify the evidence. We personally followed up with each person whose evidence we were going to rely on to verify what they sent us. We asked for details about how and when photos and videos were taken. We asked people to certify to us that the representations they provided were accurate and not tampered with. Some evidence we discarded because we had concerns that it was modified and not an accurate representation. So you have to be very careful about what you will use and ensure that it is credible and accurate. Okay. Almost finished here. Just a few other quick notes that might be of use to you. Next slide, please. One of the most important aspects of complaint handling, and certainly if you're going to use social media to increase your access to complainants and increase your volume of complaints, is having a case management system or other technology to use you to help you manage complaints. It's absolutely essential in this day and age to have a database so that you can manage and track statistics about your complaints received. Today, there are many web-based and cloud-based systems which will even pull complaints complaints for you through interfaces with other technologies and allow some kind of user engagement. People can log in through a portal to leave messages or seek updates on the status of their complaints. Not only do these systems allow you to keep records, but they will allow you to manage the life cycle of a complaint file. They're also essential to track trends in issues and identify potential systemic problems. Increasingly, we found here in Ontario in larger systemic investigations, we are also looking at other technology tools such as litigation software to allow us to search and review large volumes of electronic files and emails, which is also something that may be worth exploring to you. And finally, next slide, please. Monitoring and analyzing complaint trends. When I teach about systemic investigations, we spend a lot of time talking about how you need to know your environment that you work in, how you need to know the important issues, what complaints are arising, what is relevant to people, so that you can demonstrate your value and be responsive to issues of concern in the community that you oversee. Social media can be an extremely useful and I would say indispensable tool for this in this day and age. We monitor social media platforms and accounts of interest groups and people who regularly interact with our office, particularly those who deal with some of the most vulnerable groups who often bring complaints to us. When we are considering launching a systemic investigation, our communications team will use social media to monitor media coverage of related issues and topics of concern through keyword alerts and ad hoc media scans. Throughout the course of any investigation that we do, we will also conduct media scans to organize timelines, provide context and other analyses for the investigative team. We will monitor the accounts of identified interest groups and others which may be relevant to the issue or that we are investigating, because often they will provide us with useful leads or helpful information. All right, next slide. So I'm going to wrap things up here. I think that's pretty close to my time. I hope this has given you a good overview of how we use social media and technology in our complaint handling and investigative work. And I'm happy to answer any questions when there's time for questions. Thank you. Back over to Marianne.
Thank you, Honourable Finlay. I will ask all the questions at the end of Honourable Nduwimana's presentation, if you don't mind. I see there are 2 questions directed to you in the chat, in the question and answers. If you'd like to have a look at them and be ready when it's time to respond to those questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Honourable Finlay. Honourable Nduwimana, are you ready? You're welcome to start, Honourable.
C'est bon, vous me recevez?
We can hear you, Honourable Nduwimana.
Vous me recevez, ça va?
Très bien.
Très bien, maintenant
you
ça
can
va?
Carry on, Honourable Nduwimana. We can hear you.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Je m'excuse pour ce dérangement qui est dû à la connexion. Et je vais d'abord souhaiter une heureuse fête à toutes les femmes et surtout celles qui sont dans notre association AOMA et toutes les femmes qui sont engagées, qui ont des fonctions de médiatrice et d'ombudsman. Et je veux aussi, Excellence, Madame la Présidente de l'AOMA, vous remercier à travers vous le CROA qui, malgré les difficultés, essaie de nous rassembler chaque fois autour des thèmes aussi importants pour échanger nos expériences. Il m'a été demandé de développer un thème sur l'établissement de la cause profonde et la prise des mesures nécessaires pour résoudre la plainte, ainsi que la manière dont on peut donner un feedback aux plaignants. Et je vais essayer de développer ce thème qui s'inscrit dans le thème général de traitement des plaintes. Je vais essayer de le développer en 4 points. D'abord, je vais faire une petite introduction. Et après l'introduction, je vais partager avec vous les plaintes et les conditions de leur recevabilité. Et après, je partagerai avec vous la manière dont l'Ombudsman fait les enquêtes et les mesures qu'il prend après les enquêtes. Et avant-dernier développement, ça sera la réponse qu'on donne aux plaignants avant de faire une petite conclusion. Et, mesdames et messieurs, je disais tantôt que je remercie le CROA pour le travail qu'il fait, malgré le contexte difficile qui nous est imposé par la pandémie de Covid-19. Il est devenu aujourd'hui pratiquement impossible de nous revoir physiquement depuis bientôt 2 ans. Mais malgré cela, le CROA continue à nous réunir autour des thèmes aussi importants. Et j'ose espérer que d'ici peu, nous pourrons nous revoir physiquement parce que, comme vous l'aurez constaté, même si cette méthodologie est efficace, elle a quand même des limites. Et je pense qu'il est toujours bien de travailler en présentiel. C'est plus efficace. Et le thème qui m'a été proposé en rapport avec le traitement des plaintes est un thème très important. Et je crois que même c'est le fondement même de l'existence de nos institutions. C'est d'ailleurs ce qui ressort de la définition de l'ombudsman médiateur, qui dit qu'un ombudsman est une personne indépendante et objective qui enquête sur les plaintes des gens contre les organismes gouvernementaux et autres organisations, tant du secteur public que privé. Et après un examen approfondi et impartial, l'ombudsman détermine si la plainte est fondée et formule des recommandations à l'intention de l'organisation afin de régler le problème. Vous comprenez donc que s'il n'existe pas de plainte, les institutions d'ombudsman auraient moins de travail et même n'existeraient même pas pratiquement. C'est d'ailleurs pourquoi dans certains pays, on appelle les ombudsman gouverneurs des plaintes ou avocats du peuple. Je crois que c'est parce que c'est par les plaintes que nos institutions ont été instituées, parce qu'on s'est rendu compte que les gouvernements et les pouvoirs publics ne remplissent pas toutes leurs missions de façon à éviter que ces plaintes puissent exister. La portée et l'importance du thème sont confirmées aussi par les missions qui sont confiées aux institutions d'ombudsman par les États à travers leur constitution et d'autres lois régissant nos institutions. Vous constatez que les mots comme plainte, réclamation, gestion des plaintes, enquête reviennent pratiquement dans nos lois, dans nos constitutions, lorsqu'il s'agit de parler des institutions d'ombudsman. À titre d'exemple, je crois que c'est même la même chose même dans d'autres pays. Au Burundi, l'article 243 de la Constitution énonce que l'ombudsman reçoit les plaintes et mène des enquêtes concernant les fautes de gestion et des violations des droits des citoyens qui sont commises par des agents de la fonction publique et du judiciaire et fait des recommandations à ce sujet aux autorités compétentes. L'ombudsman assure également une médiation entre l'administration et les citoyens et entre les ministres et l'administration et joue le rôle d'observateur en ce qui concerne le fonctionnement de l'administration publique. Et ce bref rappel de la définition et des missions de l'ombudsman nous amène à aborder le thème en rapport avec l'établissement de la cause profonde et la prise des mesures nécessaires pour résoudre la plainte, ainsi que l'information sur la suite à y apporter sous 4 parties, comme je vous l'avais annoncé: de la recevabilité de la plainte, de l'analyse de la plainte, de la réponse à la plainte et une petite conclusion. Des plaintes et des conditions de leur recevabilité. J'ai voulu un peu faire une définition de ce qu'on entend par une plainte. Le lexique des termes juridiques qui définit la plainte la définit comme un acte par lequel une personne lésée par une infraction porte celle-ci à la connaissance du procureur de la République directement ou par l'intermédiaire d'une autre autorité. Vous comprenez par ici que la définition du lexique des termes juridiques ne donne aucun espace à l'ombudsman, au médiateur. C'est pourquoi j'ai dû rechercher une autre définition qui peut plutôt nous renvoyer à nos compétences. Celle-ci est libérée comme suit. Une plainte est l'expression verbale ou écrite d'une insatisfaction formulée par toute personne physique ou morale à des services rendus par l'administration publique ou les services publics ou privés. C'est peut-être cette définition qui donne un peu d'espace à l'intervention de l'Ombudsman. Et je vais ici faire le tour de types de plaintes qui peuvent être portées devant l'institution de l'Ombudsman. Mais tout cela dépend aussi de la loi qui crée l'institution et de la volonté du législateur.
Honorable Nduwimana, we seem to have lost you. Hello, Honorable Nduwimana. Seems like the connectivity is a problem again. I will, Honorable Barbara Finlay, would you like to answer your two questions while we wait for Honorable Nduwimana?
Yes, hello, sure, absolutely. I'm happy
Please
to.
unmute yourself.
Yes,
Honorable
I have.
Finlay?
Can you hear me?
You're
Hello?
muted, Honorable Finlay.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. We can
Okay,
hear you.
Oh,
thank
okay.
you. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Yes, just to address the questions. One was about receiving complaints by telephone, and we will receive them by phone. We document all of the complaints into our case management system, so there is a record of them. And even though we will respond to someone verbally by phone, quite often, if we're going to dispose of their complaint, we will also provide them the disposition and the reasons in writing, so they have a record of that as well. In terms of whether technology has improved the efficiency of handling of complaints, which was the other question, absolutely. I think it's really important. There was mention of the importance of having clear policies and procedures to handle the disposition of your complaints. And I think that when you have those, it builds trust and confidence in your office. And one of the best ways to ensure that those are carried out effectively is to support them with your technology. So if you have a complaint handling database and you're able to, you can align your procedures with that. So if you have timelines, the database can track timelines for you. If you have certain steps that need to be followed in your review of your complaint, you can build that in or use your technology to support and assist that. So I think there's many ways to use the technology to ensure that you have a good, effective, timely process for handling your complaints, and also to, as I talked a little bit about, ensure the thoroughness of your review. We're finding more and more that the government agencies that we deal with in trying to resolve complaints, they're also using technology. Quite often they will want to provide us evidence in electronic format. So you have to ensure that you have the ability to receive that, and that you are familiar with the programs and technologies that they're using as well, because this may assist you in facilitating how you handle and resolve complaints. So I think those are the two questions that were posed, but I'm happy to take any other questions that people might have.
Thank you, Honorable Finlay. I see we've got Honorable Nduwimana back again. Thank you very much. We will go back to the questions after Honorable Nduwimana has spoken. Thank you. Honorable Nduwimana, you're welcome to rejoin. Honorable Nduwimana, please unmute yourself. You're welcome to rejoin.
Oui. Oui, alors, ça va?
Oui, ça
continuer?
va, ça va. Oui, vous pouvez continuer maintenant.
Je peux continuer, il y a eu une interférence. J'étais sur le point de partager avec vous la partie qui peut saisir l'ombudsman. J'en vais maintenant aux conditions de recevabilité de la plainte. Après la saisine, l'ombudsman analyse si les conditions de recevabilité sont réunies. Et la première condition analysée, c'est la partie d'abord qui est mise en cause. Parce que, comme je vous le disais, l'ombudsman examine les plaintes et mène les enquêtes concernant les fautes de gestion et des violations des droits de l'homme qui sont commises par des agents de la fonction publique, du judiciaire, des collectivités locales, des établissements publics ou tout organisme investi d'une mission de service public. Il est donc hors de question que des plaintes entre les individus soient soumises à l'ombudsman. Celles-là sont soumises aux juridictions de droit commun qui doivent les trancher. Et la réclamation doit aussi porter sur une affaire qui est concrète. La réclamation ne doit pas porter sur le fonctionnement de l'administration en général, mais doit être précis. Le réclamant doit être suffisamment identifié et la réclamation doit porter sur des faits récents et qui se sont produits moins d'un an avant la saisine, à moins que le réclamant prouve que dans l'intervalle, il avait introduit un recours administratif ou juridictionnel. L'ombudsman peut refuser aussi de traiter une réclamation lorsque la réclamation est manifestement non fondée. Le réclamant n'a manifestement pas accompli aucune démarche auprès de l'autorité administrative concernée pour obtenir satisfaction. La réclamation est essentiellement la même qu'une réclamation qui a été écartée par l'ombudsman et si elle ne contient pas de faits nouveaux. Le dossier objet de la réclamation est en cours d'instruction en justice. Lorsqu'un dossier est en cours d'instruction en justice ou que le requérant n'a pas épuisé toutes les voies de recours, l'ombudsman ne peut pas ou le médiateur ne peut pas recevoir ce genre de plainte. Comment donc se mènent les enquêtes? C'est le vif même de ce sujet. Comment se mènent les enquêtes de l'ombudsman? À partir du moment où la plainte est recevable, l'ombudsman doit effectuer évidemment des enquêtes, écouter les parties mises en cause, faire des descentes sur terrain, ordonner des expertises s'il le faut, demander à ce que les personnes qui, en raison de leur état ou de leur profession, ont connaissance du secret qui leur a été confié, soient relevées de cette obligation, parce que chez l'ombudsman, il n'y a pas de secret professionnel. Quand l'ombudsman t'interpelle, on doit te relever de ce secret professionnel. L'ombudsman peut aussi, dans ses enquêtes, requérir des corps de contrôle et d'inspection en vue d'accomplir dans le cadre de leurs compétences des vérifications et enquêtes et de lui communiquer les résultats relatifs. En gros, l'ombudsman dispose des moyens légaux et matériels pour mener les enquêtes afin de pouvoir prendre des mesures appropriées et tous les éléments, même ceux qui paraissent anodins, doivent être pris en compte. Pour l'ombudsman, il n'y a aucun élément à négliger. On doit prendre en compte tous les éléments qui vous ont soumis lors des enquêtes. Ici, pour emprunter la citation de Jean-Christophe Granger, c'est lui qui disait que lorsque des éléments de détail, même anodins, reviennent régulièrement dans une enquête, il faut toujours les retenir parce qu'ils dissimulent à coup sûr une signification profonde. Même chez l'ombudsman, même les quelques éléments qu'on peut penser qu'ils sont anodins, on doit les prendre en considération parce que des fois, ils peuvent dissimuler une signification très profonde qui peut vous conduire à la prise d'une meilleure décision. Voilà pourquoi l'ombudsman doit être une personnalité avec beaucoup de qualités, dont l'écoute, la patience, l'humilité et avec un niveau de discernement assez élevé. Quelles sont les mesures à prendre après les enquêtes? Il est généralement reconnu que l'ombudsman médiateur ne dispose que d'un pouvoir de recommandation. Lorsqu'une réclamation lui paraît justifiée, l'ombudsman s'efforce de concilier les points de vue du réclamant et de l'administration concernée. Il fait toutes les recommandations à l'endroit du service visé et du réclamant qui lui paraissent de nature à permettre un règlement à l'amiable de la réclamation dont il est saisi. Les recommandations de l'Ombudsman peuvent porter sur un arrangement à l'amiable, comme elles peuvent porter sur l'amélioration du fonctionnement du service qui est mis en cause. L'Ombudsman, ces recommandations peuvent aussi conduire à une proposition de révision des textes législatifs et réglementaires qui peuvent être à la base de l'iniquité. L'Ombudsman peut recommander également la mise en exécution d'un jugement ou arrêt courant en force de choses jugées. Ici, il faut bien entendre, l'Ombudsman ne s'immisce pas dans les affaires qui sont pendantes devant les juridictions, mais lorsque le jugement est courant en force de choses jugées, c'est-à-dire lorsqu'il n'a plus de recours, l'Ombudsman peut exiger aux tribunaux, aux cours et tribunaux, de procéder à l'exécution de ces arrêts et jugements. Il peut me fixer des délais pendant lesquels le jugement doit être exécuté. L'Ombudsman peut également demander au procureur général de la République d'engager les poursuites lorsque dans nos enquêtes, nous constatons qu'il y a des faits qui sont de nature à être des infractions. L'Ombudsman également peut recommander au Conseil supérieur de la magistrature, qui est présidé par le président de la République lui-même, de prendre des mesures disciplinaires à l'endroit d'un magistrat dont le comportement professionnel est de nature à entacher la réputation de la justice. L'Ombudsman peut dresser un rapport spécial au président de la République, au président de l'Assemblée nationale, au président du Sénat, pour leur demander de faire des réformes législatives et réglementaires et administratives que l'Ombudsman juge conformes à l'intérêt général. Voilà les quelques types de recommandations après les enquêtes que l'Ombudsman peut formuler en vue de satisfaire aux demandes du plaignant. De la réponse au plaignant, répondre au plaignant est une obligation qui relève même du devoir de redevabilité, qui est un corollaire de la bonne gouvernance. Dans la plupart des législations qui créent les institutions de l'Ombudsman, il est reconnu à ces derniers des missions relatives à la bonne gouvernance. C'est d'ailleurs ce qu'a confirmé la résolution du 16 décembre 2020 des Nations Unies et qui a reconnu à nos institutions son rôle de promotion de la bonne gouvernance, de protection des droits humains et de l'état de droit. Au Burundi, nous avons même mis en place un département chargé de la bonne gouvernance au sein de notre institution. C'est donc pour vous dire que faire suite aux réclamations, donner un feedback aux réclamants est un élément fondamental dans l'analyse de nos doléances de la population. Mais de quelle manière est-ce qu'on donne ce feedback? Généralement, la réponse au plaignant doit prendre la même forme que la plainte, suivant qu'elle a été orale ou écrite. Il n'y a pas de délai fixe, mais toujours dans le souci de la bonne gouvernance, la loi édicte du moins au Burundi que l'Ombudsman informe le réclamant sans délai de sa décision de traiter ou non la réclamation. Et le refus de traiter une réclamation doit être motivé. L'Ombudsman informe l'autorité administrative de la réclamation qu'il compte instruire. La décision de l'Ombudsman de ne pas donner suite à une réclamation n'est pas susceptible d'un recours devant une juridiction. Voilà la manière dont on répond aux plaignants. C'est par écrit. Lorsque vous avez été saisi par écrit, vous devez écrire au plaignant pour lui dire, voilà, nous allons analyser votre dossier, nous avons constaté qu'il est recevable, nous avons constaté qu'il n'est pas recevable, mais dans tous les cas, vous devez motiver la décision que vous prenez sur l'analyse de son dossier. En concluant, en résumé, la manière dont les plaintes sont traitées constitue la garantie même de la crédibilité des institutions de l'Ombudsman médiateur. L'attitude avec laquelle vous recevez le plaignant, la façon de lui parler, le temps d'écoute que vous lui réservez, crée en lui une confiance en votre personne. Peu importe que la plainte soit de votre compétence ou non. Parce que la plupart des plaintes, je dois l'avouer, ne remplissent pas les conditions de recevabilité. Mais en pareille circonstance, l'Ombudsman se transforme en un conseil juridique et oriente et donne des conseils au plaignant. Le plaignant doit pouvoir suivre l'évolution de l'analyse de son dossier depuis le dépôt de la plainte jusqu'à la clôture où il signe une convention de clôture de son dossier. Voilà la manière dont nous devons traiter les plaintes et la manière dont nous devons donner un feedback au plaignant. Et je reconnais que je n'ai pas abordé tous les points relatifs à ce sujet, étant donné l'étendue de la matière et le temps qui nous est imparti, mais j'ose croire que ce bref aperçu peut contribuer à enrichir nos débats. Je vous remercie. Encore une fois, toutes nos excuses pour les interférences et les dérangements dus à une mauvaise connexion. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Honorable Nduwimana, and thank you to all the speakers for the enlightening presentations. I see Honorable Nicole has managed to join. Can you hear us, Honorable Nicole? Would you like to take over here? She's here, but I see she's not responding.
Marianne,
Yes.
Honorable Nicola suggested that you just go on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We have quite a few questions. What I'm thinking is that due to the time constraints and all the challenges with connectivity, I will just read a few of the questions. And there were questions that were sent prior to the webinar. I'll read some of those questions. I think I'll read about 3 questions. And if we can get a response from each presenter on the questions that were raised prior to the webinar. The first one is cases 2 years and older where implicated witnesses are no longer appointed in the institutions. If somebody can please respond with regard to handling complaints where institution. I'm just reading exactly from the question, sorry. Handling complaints where institutions have lost documentary evidence. How does one deal with those complaints? Can I ask Honorable Nduwimana maybe, seeing that he was initially the first speaker, and then Honorable Flobela, Antonio, and Honorable Barbara Finlay, if you can please just maybe just respond in that order, in the order of that you were supposed to speak in. Thank you. Honorable Nduwimana, can you respond, please?
Oui, oui, merci beaucoup. En fait, je dois dire que tout dépend de la complexité de l'affaire qui est portée devant l'Ombudsman. Il y a des affaires qui peuvent prendre une semaine avant la réponse. Il y a des affaires qui peuvent prendre un mois et d'autres qui peuvent prendre une année. Mais dans tous les cas, l'Ombudsman doit faire signe de disponibilité. Il doit être disponible. Et aussi, pour pouvoir faire diligence aux plaintes des citoyens, l'Ombudsman doit développer un esprit de collaboration avec les autres institutions et services publics pour qu'ils ne sentent pas que se présenter devant l'Ombudsman, c'est justement se faire incriminer par nos institutions. Nous essayons de développer un esprit de collaboration, bien évidemment, tout en sauvegardant notre indépendance. En ce qui concerne les compétences de nos ressources humaines, tout dépend de la nature du dossier analysé. Nous avons des départements, nous avons des connaissances diversifiées. Suivant la nature d'un dossier, nous le confions à quelqu'un qui a ce background. Il y a un dossier, par exemple, qui met en cause le ministère de la Justice, et nous avons des juristes. Il y a des dossiers qui concernent les indemnisations, nous les confions aux juristes. Il y a d'autres dossiers qui concernent, par exemple, les pensions et autres de nos structures sociales. Là, il y a des économistes, il y a des psychologues. Nous essayons de diversifier les compétences de nos ressources humaines. Voilà Mais le tout, le plus important, c'est la sagesse et l'humilité de nos collaborateurs qui doivent adopter un comportement de nature à être très respectueux, de nature à ce que les plaignants puissent se confier à eux et comprendre que ce sont des personnes qui peuvent les aider. Donc, voilà, en termes de compétences, nous avons des compétences assez diversifiées. Et voilà.
Thank you, Honorable Nduwimana. Honorable Antonia, would you like to respond to that particular question? Thank you. You're muted.
Já posso? Eu tenho uma resposta para dar sobre a questão relacionada com como as provedorias de justiça enfrentam os desafios das instituições governamentais que não implementam as suas recomendações ou decisões sobre denúncias de má administração.
I do have an answer related to how the Ombudsman face the challenges of state institutions that are not willing to implement its recommendations or decisions.
Em Angola, quando as instituições públicas não respondem às questões relacionadas com as recomendações ou decisões sobre denúncias de má administração e abuso de poder.
In Angola, when institutions do not implement recommendations around abuse of powers,
de acordo com o Estatuto de Provedor de Justiça, ele deve comunicar ao órgão imediatamente a seguir.
According to the statutes of the Ombudsman has to communicate this matter to the senior of that institution.
Por exemplo, se for um ministro, um governador ou uma entidade nomeada pelo Presidente da República, ele comunica ao Presidente da República que essa entidade não acatou a recomendação.
For example, if it's a minister or a mayor of the province that does not obey the recommendations of the Ombudsman communicates this to the President of the Republic.
Se for um deputado, comunica à Assembleia Nacional.
If he is a member of Parliament, the Ombudsman informs the President of the Assembly.
Quer dizer que esta responsabilidade deixa de ser do Provedor de Justiça, porque não tem caráter decisório, mas tem somente o caráter de persuasão e passa para a entidade que controla esse órgão.
So this becomes the responsibility of the person who is above the concerned individual.
A única questão que em Angola o Provedor de Justiça não tem competência é quando se trata de questões relacionadas com decisões dos tribunais, porque há aí limites.
In Angola, the Ombudsman has not much to mention about decisions of courts. He has limits.
Somente interfere quando há morosidade processual, o que dá origem à denegação de justiça. Nunca pode entrar no mérito da questão.
The Ombudsman only acts in matters of court when there is a delay of justice, but does not interfere in the matter itself.
Porque o Provedor de Justiça não pode alterar as decisões ou sentenças dos tribunais.
Because the Ombudsman cannot alter decisions of courts.
E mesmo em relação aos atos administrativos dos poderes públicos, também o Provedor de Justiça não pode interferir. Exemplo, o titular de um órgão desonerar um funcionário, ainda que injustamente, o Provedor de Justiça não pode imiscuir, uma vez que é um ato do poder discricionário.
And even among public servants, decision, for example, if a minister retrench or fires one of his directors. The Ombudsman cannot interfere on this case directly.
Mas se for uma sanção injusta e disciplinar, o Provedor de Justiça aí pode interferir e dizer quais são os caminhos para recomendar qual é o melhor caminho para resolver essa questão e então recomendar a entidade superior.
However, if the dismissal is unfair, the Ombudsman will make recommendations to allow to a fair process outcome.
Thank you. Poderia também responder à questão relacionada como falar um pouco sobre a resolução informal de queixas, especialmente aquelas que podem precisar de ajuda de um advogado. Como envolver a pessoa e garantir que os direitos não sejam violados.
I will also talk about the situations where complaints need a lawyer and how we can resolve this situation in a speedy way.
De acordo com o Estatuto do Provedor, o Provedor de Justiça não pode interferir nos assuntos entre particulares.
According to the Ombudsman's status, the Ombudsman should not interfere on private persons' matters.
Mas quando há uma questão relacionada com litígios de terras,
But when there is matters related to land issues,
o Provedor de Justiça tem o poder de mediar o conflito, cria uma comissão para mediar esse conflito.
the Ombudsman has a mandate to mediate such conflicts. He creates a group of individuals to address this situation.
E se mesmo assim não chegar a nenhuma solução, então encaminha o processo ou solicita a intervenção do bastonário da ordem dos advogados, se o cidadão não tiver possibilidade de constituir um advogado.
But even after the intervention of the Ombudsman, if there is no success, the Ombudsman will request the help from the board of lawyers to resolve the situation if the citizens should not have a means to have a lawyer.
E temos uma parceria muito boa com o bastonário da ordem dos advogados, que sempre que encaminhamos casos, embora também o número de advogados em Angola já não corresponda, mas ele dá uma resposta satisfatória.
And we have a good partnership with the law board, and they usually assist us on such matters.
E infelizmente em Angola, nos últimos anos, 2020, 2021, 2022, os casos sobre a morosidade do processo em tribunais são o número de casos maiores de queixas e reclamações que a Provedoria de Justiça recebe.
Unfortunately, since 2020, 2021, 2022, the Ombudsman has seen an increase on complaints related to delays of justice in court situations.
Assim como os conflitos de terra e os conflitos nos locais de trabalho.
As well as land conflicts and labor matters.
Por causa das injustiças nos concursos.
Because of injustices of public vacancies.
Ou ainda o abuso de poder de algumas autoridades.
And as well as matters of abuse of power by some entities.
E questões relacionadas com a segurança social, onde, de uma forma geral, muitas pessoas mais velhas descontaram durante muito tempo e têm dificuldade, às vezes, de receber uma pensão justa e equitativa. Aí temos pontos focais. Pontos focais do Provedor de Justiça, que geralmente contactam o ponto focal do Instituto de Segurança Social ou de outros órgãos e tentam resolver os assuntos pela melhor via mais expedita.
We also have matters of social security. Sometimes the Ombudsman receives complaints from elderly who are on retirement for unfair deductions of their retirement funds.
De forma informal.
For such situations, the Ombudsman has created focal points within institutions to address such matters.
E a Provedora de Justiça manteve encontros com titulares de departamentos ministeriais, onde estes casos são mais complexos, como o Ministro de Estado para a área social, por causa das questões sociais todas, transportes, Ministro de Trabalho para a área de segurança social, saúde e educação, onde há mais queixas constantes.
For this reason, the Ombudsman has organized meetings with the head of departments ministerial, such as social services, Department of Transport, Department of Health, and Department of Education to address such matters.
Muito obrigada. Por enquanto, eu cumpro responder.
Thank you very much. For now, this is what I have to say.
Thank you, Honorable Antonio. Honorable Barbara Finlay, we'll give you an opportunity to respond, please. And I think that's the final question we'll take. Maybe what we will do is post all the questions and answers. We will send the questions through to all the speakers. And if you don't mind responding, and then what we will do, we will post them on our website. We will send the link within the next week to all the, the questions and answers that have been asked. There's too many and time is short. Honorable Barbara Finlay, if you don't mind providing your response to the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and keep it short, and I'm certainly happy to answer any of the questions that you send to us. The question was about investigating some years after the time of the complaint and accessing evidence or where files or information may have been destroyed. I think it's important when you're doing your analysis of a complaint upon receiving it to determine how old the complaint is. In some cases, the Ombudsman has discretion not to investigate if a complaint is too old or if it's no longer relevant. If the complaint is something that is still live and you wish to investigate, then you certainly would need to look at whether there may be other sources of evidence available to substantiate the complaint, such as whether there are witnesses available, whether there are other parties who may have kept records, whether there were notes or other electronic records which may substantiate the complaint. The other thing I would look at is here, at least in Canada, government agencies have legal obligations as to how long they must keep records of their dealings with citizens. So you may want to look at whether or not those obligations were respected. In some cases where agencies have not kept the records they were supposed to, we have been able to use that to go back to them and get them to favorably resolve a complaint because they did not keep up their obligations in keeping files or records. So those are just some of the things that you may want to consider when you're investigating an older complaint. I hope that's answered the question.
Thank you, Honorable Barbara. I will allow 2 minutes each speaker for some closing remarks or summary or anything that you'd like to share with the participants of the webinar. 2 minutes each, please. I think I will start with Honorable Barbara, then Honorable Antonio, and then Honorable Nduwimana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm very little I'm going to add. It's almost 5 in the morning here in Ontario, Canada, so I'm starting to run out of energy, but thank you very much for your interest. We're certainly happy to answer any questions later, and all I would say is I cannot emphasize the importance of having good complaint policies and procedures and process resources so that you can consistently handle complaints, both so that complainants know what to expect when they come to your office, and the organizations that you oversee know what to expect when you receive complaints and how you're going to engage with them. So it's extremely important. There are tons of resources out there through this organization, through other organizations. There's tons of best practices that are available online through different offices, so that you can take those that you can adapt and suit to fit your environment that you work in. Be creative, but by all means certainly draw on what's out there so you can establish the frameworks that work best for you in your jurisdiction to handle complaints effectively. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Barbara. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Can we go to Honorable Antonio to give you a 2-minute summary or remarks, closing remarks for the participants? Thank you very much, Honorable Antonio.
Muito obrigado a todos. Eu acho que este seminário foi muito importante para, mais uma vez, aclarar a questão relacionada com a gestão das queixas.
I think this webinar was very interesting so that we can clear up the matter of complaints management.
Os princípios que devem ser observados para que o cidadão, quando faz a sua queixa, acredite no provedor de justiça.
The principles that should be observed when citizens submit complaints to the group.
Com realce com o princípio da participação, da confidencialidade, o princípio da clareza, da transparência.
Especially the principle of transparency and the principle of clarity. These are very important principles.
Da acessibilidade.
As well as the principle of accessibility.
Tivemos problemas com a pandemia do Covid, onde muitas vezes tivemos que usar a via telefónica.
We had many situations because of COVID-19, such that we had to use electronic means to communicate.
Como no nosso país ainda há alguma dificuldade com as tecnologias de informação, temos recebido em audiência presencial o provedor e o adjunto.
As in our country, we still have limited access to technology. Myself and the Deputy Ombudsman, we receive complaints in office.
As visitas têm sido feitas às instituições públicas, governos provinciais, municípios, têm permitido com que se faça uma audição pública aos cidadãos.
The roadshows that the Ombudsman has been organizing, it has allowed the Ombudsman to make his bring awareness of his mandates to public in general.
As queixas, solicitação de esclarecimentos e as recomendações que são feitas aos titulares dos vários órgãos públicos da administração central, local, do Estado e outros, têm permitido a transformação das queixas em recomendações para os poderes públicos.
Complaints has somehow allowed us to handle better matters related to public entities.
Devemos continuar, recomendo a todos que devemos continuar a trabalhar com maior celeridade para que os cidadãos acreditem no provedor de justiça.
I would recommend that we should carry on working in a speedy way so that complaints may be given answers timely.
E sensibilizar os órgãos da administração pública central para que acatem o dever de cooperação, que está consagrado na nossa Constituição e no Estatuto do Provedor de Justiça.
And also sensitize our public entities to follow the recommendations of the Ombudsman.
Sem o dever de cooperação, o provedor de justiça não pode resolver as questões, de modo que continuarmos a divulgar a função e o mandato do provedor de justiça.
Without the right, the duty to cooperate, the Ombudsman cannot do much. So we have to keep going, we have to keep interacting with the public entities for the success of our work.
e a importância do tratamento das queixas e as suas recomendações, porque o cidadão é a nossa ocupação e a nossa preocupação.
Since the public is our preoccupation, the public is our concern, is our business, we have to keep working swiftly to address their complaints.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Feliz Dia da Mulher para todas as mulheres que estão presentes.
All women present here.
Thank you, Honorable Antonia. Honorable Nduwimana, if you can give your closing remarks for 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Oui, oui, mais merci beaucoup. C'est d'abord encore une fois à remercier ceux qui ont organisé ce webinaire et le choix du thème qui est très intéressant. Remercier encore une fois à toutes les femmes et leur souhaiter une bonne fête. Ce webinaire arrive à un bon moment parce que chez nous, au Burundi, si nous faisons les statistiques, les plaintes qui sont déposées chez l'institution de l'Ombudsman, autour de 57%, les victimes sont des femmes. C'est donc important que nous traitions de ce sujet aujourd'hui où les femmes célèbrent leur fête. J'avais demandé à Francky de partager aussi mon article que j'ai rédigé à cette occasion au nom de la AOMA qui sera publié dans le bulletin de l'ONU Femmes. Et j'encourage aussi les autres à lire cet article qui peut-être peut être intéressant, inspirer les autres. Et c'est pourquoi d'ailleurs au niveau de notre institution, après avoir fait ce constat, nous avons proposé au gouvernement une politique nationale sur la lutte contre le harcèlement et l'abus d'autorité en milieu de travail, parce que nous avons constaté que les victimes de l'abus d'autorité et de harcèlement au travail sont la plupart des femmes. Sinon, si je reviens à ce thème qui était très intéressant, je crois que comme je l'ai dit, la manière dont nous traitons les plaintes, la manière dont nous recevons les plaignants, c'est ce qui nous donne la crédibilité. Et donc, je propose en terminant que chaque institution puisse aussi adopter une stratégie de gestion de plaintes parce que il me semble que dans la plupart de nos institutions, nous n'avons pas de stratégie pour gérer les plaintes, pour que le plaignant puisse suivre sa plainte dès le dépôt jusqu'à la clôture. Ça serait bien que chaque institution, du moins au sein de notre association, adopte une politique, une stratégie de gestion des plaintes que nous pouvons partager entre nous pour pouvoir harmoniser nos méthodes de travail. Encore une fois, merci beaucoup et je vous souhaite une très bonne journée ou une très bonne soirée à ceux qui, peut-être pour le moment, commencent à faire tard. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Honorable Edward Nduwimana. Thank you all speakers. I'm going to hand over to Advocate Mkhwebane. PP, are you available to give the final remarks and the wrap up? Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm inside the flight, the beauty of virtual meetings, but I was listening and we've learned a lot. Thank you so much to all the panelists. And I need to add as well that we've learned a lot from all of you. And I like the issue of also let's encourage everyone to utilize social media, educate the public. As the public protector, we will be launching our mobile app where each and every person who will own a mobile phone will have the ombudsman within their house, because we also then advise people where they can get other services. If it's something which doesn't fall within our jurisdiction, at least we empower them to know that they can approach other sectors of public complaints or a private sector. So thank you so much, Ombudsman Canada, Angola, and Burundi. All the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Have a good day.
much. Thank you. I think this is the end, but to all participants, all the documents of the meeting will be available on our website a week from now. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.